We are here with David Chalk, the 2025 Courage to Come Back Award winner for mental health. Dave, it's a kind of a big thrill for me to talk to you. I grew up with your show when you were back at the old farmhouse there. I remember the old Doppler computer store at Canby and 8th, not far from the radio station, as it so happens. Let's start at the beginning. How does your story begin?
Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. And this is quite the experience for me. My story goes way back to childhood. As I tell people, I was a happy-go-lucky kid. And the day I walked through the grade one schoolroom door, my world changed. The teacher wanted me to come to the front of class and read and be the first person. We had just come to Canada, so I was new to the country as well. And I froze. And that was really it for the next 12 years. Realized that I could not read, especially in front of the class, but that wasn't the point. I had neurodivergency in my brain, which later at the age of 42 was diagnosed to be acute dyslexia, ADHD, prosopagnosia, the inability to recognize the human face, and then other cognitive challenges that had me, unfortunately suffer through school at the hands of teachers and at the ends of fists and boots of children in the school at times.
So you went through more than your fair share of bullying for the era because of this.
I would say if there was a picture in the dictionary, it would probably be me, unfortunately.
And so how much of this carried over into adulthood then?
It carried over in a strange way for me. I know I'm an anomaly. As I have said to people on interviews, I had an incredible mother who supported me, knew from those early years that I couldn't be mentally retarded, as they called me, or dumb, or stupid, or a number of other words, that there was some creativity inside of me. So home was kind of like my sanctuary. My mom was there. We drew, we painted, we cooked, we did exciting things. I was engaged in everything in life at home. I'd go to school and my world would fall apart. I would beg not to have to go. And when I graduated, I remember my mom saying to me, well, the school counselor told me, David, you've got probably three outcomes in life. You'll be dead, on the streets, or in jail. And that is how they diagnosed anyone with learning disabilities. They didn't diagnose it, they just said that you're not capable of learning. But I remember my mom telling me, David, the world is your oyster. And I had never lost my self-worth. I'd lost my self-esteem through school, but my self-worth was something deeper inside. And from there, I just decided that I was going to follow her lead and do whatever I could. Damn the torpedoes. I went out to learn to fly. By the time I was now latter part of my 19th year, I was flying commercially, learned to fly 737 trained. And I went, oh my God, this is crazy. It's nothing like school. And then I had this crazy idea that maybe I will go to university. I went out and challenged the exam. Unfortunately, it was the same way it was in class. The anxiety, the fear, all the trauma came back. But I think it was about 3 months later, I got a letter in the mail from UBC saying that I think I'd only really answered one question, but that was the one that I knew I could do. You're the first one to ever solve it in the history of the university, putting that exam question on. We had to send it down to Stanford University and confirm. And having done that, we will offer you a scholarship in engineering. And I said no, because I knew what would happen. I wasn't going to get support. It wasn't like it is today, where they allow you more time or somebody to support you in reading. And I went on to take a computer apart and went, oh my God, these things are going to be really big one day. And this is back with the Apple computer. And I said to my brother, like, why don't we build these? And that was the beginning of what you said, Doppler computers. Had that for 17 years, I think. And in that time, I did the radio show on CKNW for nearly 10 years on Saturday morning, live call-in show. And then I created the television show. All of that because I wanted to give back. I wanted to teach people this changing technology. I wanted them to see that if you put yourself out there, you could do most anything you put your mind to. And, it wasn't that I was dumb or stupid. It was simply that I could not learn the way the education system teaches. And frankly, if you look at the statistics, that is true for more than 54% of all children leaving school reading below a grade 6 level in 2025.
The thing that's remarkable to me, and going back to the radio program and the TV show, is that you did all of that without being able to read or write. So would you commit all of that to memory?
No, it was a skill that came about. And I remember when I started the TV show, I couldn't find anyone to produce it, so I started a production company. And I got the film crew, there was like 10 people in it, setting up. And they, okay, where's your script? What are you going to do? I don't have one. I didn't tell them I couldn't read. And I just made it up. I mean, from knowledge. So for nearly 12 years, I did over 800 shows, never a script, never anything. They'd give me the odd note on something that I might have. And then the same on the radio show. It was open line call in across Canada. Anything goes from what is a modem, how to hook it up, won't my computer reboot? It what I put it down to, and it was something that happened by accident, but people will know what it is. It's flow state. And when you enter that time and place where everything is just moves by without thinking, when people playing video games get caught up in it, and it is that feeling that you can do anything. Well, the brain happens to release this neurochemical called dopamine, and I feel it coming on. And as that comes over me, I don't want to say I transform, but that brain that isn't totally wired correctly can pull from deep inside of this implicit memory and it just flows out of my mouth. And for that, I am very grateful. It was a survival technique when I was young, trying to get my way out of problems. But later in life, it came to be the very skill set, I'll say, that I had that had me go out and get deep into technology.
Now, you're well into adulthood before they figure out that you have all these undiagnosed things like dyslexia, ADHD, neurodiversity, and it was at the age of 42 that you went into a deep depression. Is that when you found out all these things at once?
Yeah, I had just had my children, and they were 1 and 3 or close to that. And I had this thought that what if something that I have goes through to them? I'm going to get tested to see why life is so difficult. Now, I accepted that it was. I was just told that I was different, so there must be something wrong. I went and got tested, and at the time they said to me, David, we test mainly children, but many adults as well too. And of all the people we've ever tested in the 30 years we've been doing it, we've never seen anyone score like you. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not too bad. No, the worst ever. It's called the 1 percentile, 99 and above. My short-term memory, obviously my reading skills, there's so many factors that go into that. And that's when I found out I had prosopagnosia, and that why was it when people walked up to me, I couldn't recognize them. And to this day, I still can't.
Now, you become a wildly successful entrepreneur without the ability to read or write, and basically you became an entrepreneur because you couldn't fill out a job application, so you started your own companies.
That's right. I realized that no matter what, whatever this was at the time, it's going to hold me back. And again, that sort of feeling of I can do this rather than a feeling that I couldn't do it came out of me. And I just simply marched forward, unknowing of anything that I was doing, but just the hope and the belief that if I leaned into it, something would come out of it. We were in the very early days before the internet of technology. And for me, it was the most exciting thing I could do. And with that was all I needed to go flat out.
Now, you eventually learned to read at the age of 62, and there is a backstory to this as well. In 2009, a misread contract led to a devastating loss of two of your companies to bankruptcy. What exactly happened?
Well, it was a complication of me not reading contracts clearly on what would happen in a default position. And that was 2008 that it occurred. And we remember the recession that hit. Many people had it. I was extended quite far. I was doing well, but circumstances at times and things fell apart. And it's all part of the learning because I'll say that while I would never wish that on anyone to lose everything you have after all those years, if you're a person like me that wants to share it with other people, the learning, it was a piece of the puzzle that I needed to have. And, I regret it. No one really lost money because I was completely insured. It wasn't that kind of bankruptcy. I just lost everything I had.
Now, you write that in 2020, when COVID-19 hit, the cracks in my life were impossible to ignore. The pandemic swept away my business and income, and my life began to unravel. At 62, I was forced to confront the truth I'd been hiding from. I could not read. So, how did you go about learning to read?
Yes, interesting story. When you say can't read, people will wonder, "And how did you do anything?" Obviously, I have a vocabulary. I can speak. There's a lot of natural things you pick up. I could read words, but I couldn't string them together fluidly and understand the sentence. By the time I got to the end, I'd forget the previous one. So, yes, I could read words. My writing was terrible. My spelling was atrocious. And at that time with COVID, I was doing entrepreneurial coaching and keynote speaking on learning disabilities, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. And obviously, that all went away. And I didn't know how long it was going to last, and I had no income. And about that time, my stomach ruptured, my colon burst, which is a death knell. When I got into the hospital, they said, you may not make it out. Just let's do the best we can do. It wasn't that I had an epiphany when I was in there, but I was in hospital for over 2 months during COVID. And when I got out, I went, do you know what? I got to deal with this thing. They told me I couldn't have read any worse. I knew a person, Fran, who was connected to a very successful entrepreneur in the US, John Cochran. He wrote a book called The Teacher Who Couldn't Read. And it was one of the rare books I had read many years ago when I got diagnosed. They told me I should read it. Anyway, it turned out he was filming a documentary. They'd been looking for an adult for 2 years that might go on camera publicly. This is a Hollywood produced documentary, not backyard type of thing. And you would be taught to read on a new methodology that they believed could revolutionize all of reading. And I had to do it in 1 week, a couple hours a day. Well, under the lights, the camera, and all of the pressure, again, for me, it was actually an exciting thing. I sort of went into that flow state. 4 hours into it, I'm just about breaking down in tears because I can feel inside of me something changing. By hour 7, we started to read out loud, and by the 11th hour, I was reading fluidly, understanding it, being tested. There was a certified tester, a government agent there that tested me before, like a grade 5 or grade 6 level reading, and 11 hours later, post university level reading. And it never changed and it never went back. I'm a voracious reader now.
Now, the promotion of literacy, obviously a big part of your life now. You see it as your mission now, for the rest of your life. How are you making that actionable? How are you giving back to others?
Okay, well, fortunately, my background in artificial intelligence had me realize that the real reason that children aren't learning to read in school, it is the experience, because that's what it was for me. It was a terrible experience. The amygdala, which is the fight or flight, kicks in, and cortisol and adrenaline. You're shaking, you're frustrated, you're angry the entire time. If a learner was in a calm environment, like their home, and they were curious and excited about what they were learning, as I was when I was taught by this private tutor, I realized that this methodology they were teaching me was really like pattern recognition. There's only 44 sounds in the English language and 26 symbols. How do we train AI? Pattern recognition with immediate human feedback. That's what she did. And by the minute, I was feeling them. I say that metaphorically, but they go to a different part of the brain when you learn on pattern recognition rather than memorization. It's the implicit subconscious that can be recalled. As we said, when I talk, I don't know where it comes from. It comes from that same place. Well, now reading. was going in there. So after a few years of learning neuroscience, cognitive science, affect science was emotional science, and the science of reading, I went to John Cochrane and I said, you know what, John, I think you and I could work together and we could build artificial intelligence that would be a personal tutor companion that a child could learn in the home. All the science is there, all the methodology is there. So I approached a good friend of mine, Kevin, who is an AI and a network specialist, and said, "Look, here's my plan. Do you think we could build it?" He looked at it and goes, David, because he knew me before and after. He said, if that's what got you to read, we're building that. And I said, fine. My wish is to give it to most everyone in the world for free when it's completely done, socioeconomically challenged people, returning veterans from war, juvenile incarceration, adult incarceration. All of those people are suffering. They're the result of an education system that didn't set up an optimal environment for them to learn in those early years, and they shut down. A lot of people, yeah, they could be criminals, but most end up there because they can't fill out a job application. They didn't have my mom supporting me. Poverty, health. In fact, the fallout from subliteracy and illiteracy in North America ranks only second to the cost of the economy of cancer and the devastation. We don't hear about it because it's in the background. People are silent about it. But more than 150 million people right now suffer terribly from it, and more than 2 million children a year leave school the way I was.
What do you hope people take away from your story?
Oh my God, a couple of things. One, that if you have children that you know are suffering, encourage them with all the love and support you can, that the education system may not work for them. And there's an incredible life and opportunity out there if they can keep their self-worth. That is what gets lost for children. And then for me, the fact that as an adult, I could learn to read in a very short amount of time. Within a year, I hope to have this technology in the marketplace. And I do believe it can not only change Canada, North America, it can change the entire world because it is a completely different approach. A problem that big, you're not going to change it by simply just changing the way you teach people to read. That is what I discovered. It was me. What the heck happened to me when I was there? I had a complete emotional experience change, and that was it. Bingo. That part has to go in front. Put a child into a flow state, which the AI can manage, keep them in that optimal learning, give them this science-based reading, and our estimates are a 4-year-old, by the time they enter school, could be reading at a grade 3 level. Revolutionizes everything. The teachers are now teaching, the children are happy, engaged, and that is what education should be. It shouldn't be the first 3 years of hell trying to teach children to read that they're having difficulty with.
I want to read you something that one of your nominators wrote in the materials. David's story is not just about overcoming illiteracy, it is the power of resilience, the lessons in failure, and the courage to rise again. How do you feel when you hear something like that?
It was hard when I was told that I was the recipient of it. The first thing through my mind, I went, "What about all the other people? This is just my life. I didn't do this for any purpose. I'm just doing what I can to help others." When I hear things like that, because I was shown what was going to be submitted, it gave me an excited yet mixed emotion feeling that how could something that to me was very painful, really, how could I accept that pain and think, okay, I'm normal for having suffered that? I don't want to look at it that way. I want to look at it that what I did under these circumstances that I had, many other people could have done it. As I said, I'm an anomaly. But in having that opportunity, I know that I can change the lives of millions, and that is my mission.
Do you have any particular message to people who find themselves in a situation similar to yours, adults who, for whatever reason, didn't learn, couldn't learn to read, and are hearing this for the first time?
Yeah, the ADHD and dyslexia is rampant out there. What happens in the workplace? You rise to a certain level, and then you worry that if you go any higher, you'll be exposed. There's people hiding inside of companies, many people not working. What I can tell them is you can learn to read. The methodology is no secret. It's called speech to print, but it requires specialized focus training. They can look into that. But also know that the belief they could have in themselves, the memories they have that got them to where they are in a negative state, you can't erase them. But you can know, maybe from coming across people like me and others, that when you lean into it, it isn't about reading. It's about self-esteem and self-worth. And if you can find a way to have confidence, the reading component, it really doesn't matter that much. Right? The reading, because it's the first thing a child has to attack at that young age of 5, 6, and 7. I think it was Plato who said, "Give me a child until he is 8, and I will give you the man." That reading becomes the catalyst for the pain. If you aren't an exceptional reader, we put so much pressure on ourselves, but you can make it through. I intend to change all that. I'm going to teach adults to read, no problem. But the one thing, no matter what, is the belief that you can. And it is the doubt. They say fear has killed more dreams than failure ever could. That would be the message. If they understand what I am saying there, it's ourselves that we got to get out of the way of. And that was the line that my mom taught me. Get out of your own way, and you can do anything you want.
I know we covered this off a little bit already, but how does it feel to be recognized with this Courage to Come Back award? What are you most looking forward to in collecting this particular accolade?
Well, I knew about the award for many years. I'd seen many of the previous recipients, and I was so pleased to see people's lives, being turned around and doing wonderful things. For me, it was a mixed emotion, as I said, that this is my life, this is what I do, and now being honored for it, it seemed very strange. But I had it settle in for a week or so, and I told the organization, you know what? That was a beautiful thing you did, giving me a little bit of advanced warning so I could work through it in my head and come to peace with it, learn to understand the value of it. I think what I'm looking most for is all the people involved on the night of the event. I think there's nearly 2,000 people attend it, and I get to feel the energy of that.
All right, let's leave it there. David Chalk is the 2025 Courage to Come Back Award winner in the category of mental health. Thank you for this.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.